want to first start this off by saying, as someone who has been affected by child sexual abuse, I would never want anyone to feel like their voice can't be heard or that they are afraid to express themselves, because I personally know how hard it is to come out and to have the courage to say something. And also, when being a child, I understand the confusion of what's going on with you. You really don't have the communication to say it, or you don't even know if it's something that is wrong and you feel like you're doing something wrong. So I just wanted to start off by first saying that. But I do not believe that is the case here with this Leaving Neverland documentary. And I mean, I've been a big fan of Michael Jackson for many years. The allegations about him with young children, young boys specifically, it's not something new to me. I have definitely done research on it, and I followed it and all that kind of stuff because, like I said, as someone who has been through that, I would never want to give my support or my love to anyone that can do something like that to children. It's just not in me. And in relations to the R. Kelly situation, yeah, I dropped him like a bad fucking habit because I just was not going to support that sort of behavior. A lot of people are talking about, oh, can I separate the art from the artist? And it's like, for me, no, they are one and the same. That is one man, one person who is both doing these horrendous acts or crimes or whatever, and the same person that may be making this beautiful music. The good does not take away the bad in my situation. So I've always been very particularly interested in the cases with Michael Jackson, because, like I said, I wouldn't want to support someone like that. I understand the weirdness that surrounds Michael Jackson, especially with like the plastic surgery, the stuff with like his kids, hanging out with young boys as a grown man in itself is weird to me. I think that's weird. And a lot of people, we chalk it up to he didn't have a childhood himself. So therefore he has been trying to pretty much recreate a childhood for himself, which, I mean, I definitely believe that was the case. I believe that was the innocence behind it. But I mean, nonetheless, it's a kind of a weird situation. And I can definitely see why people would think that is, inappropriate, because it kind of is. And saying that, since the late 80s, there have been allegations about Michael Jackson with these children that he chose to hang out with. And I mean, there's been all sorts of kind of crazy rumors about him pretty much from the time it really, I guess, started like at his peak, probably around like Thriller, Bad era, when he really was reaching his height and his fame, when he was breaking records and barriers and everything. That's when you started hearing the most about Michael Jackson. Because up until then, he was the cute kid from the Jackson 5 who was super talented. And it's not like people have been saying crap about him since then. It wasn't really until he started breaking all these barriers and for black people and black music and all that kind of stuff, that people really started to seem like stuff started to come out, like he owned Elephant Man bones, and that he was changing himself to be white despite having a skin condition and all those kind of crazy things. So I think when all of that kind of didn't work, when he started hanging out with all these young kids, it was like super easy to be like, why is this grown ass man sleeping in the bed with young children? And that's easily right there, that's a narrative that pretty much wrote itself. And I mean, unfortunately, even if Michael was coming from an innocent place of it, or coming from an innocent place, it's weird. That's a pretty weird thing. So saying all that, Even from way back when, I think like 94 or so, there was like the first case that had came out about these allegations, and they settled it outside of court. And not a lot of people, some people took that as meaning, he was paying the family off to be hush hush about it. And, the way that they were saying and the reason why they were doing it was pretty much that's what they wanted. And in order to make them stop lying, that was going to be the easiest way to get rid of them. Which, in my case, I don't care how much money you give me. If you touched my child, that's it. Like, there's no amount of money that's going to make me feel better about it. It's not something that I would ever stop talking about. I would make sure that until you were behind bars, that I would speak out loudly about the situation. Yeah, and I think a lot of people feel like that, which is why it was so easy to believe that all this family wanted was money. And then the trial in 2005, which was on a larger scale, and it was a full trial, had many witnesses, and on both sides, people who were claiming that they had seen Michael be inappropriate with children, as well as young children who had spent time with Michael, saying that nothing inappropriate had ever happened between them. And in the 10-year investigation, FBI investigation of these allegations, and in all that time, they had never proved that Michael was ever inappropriate with a child, and there was never ever any evidence found against that, which is not to say that nothing ever happened. People can get rid of evidence. But, 10 years is a long time, and a full trial where he was found innocent. I really thought that would have been like the end of it. But it's not. It wasn't. And so in this documentary, and I'm so tired of saying their names because I feel like that's what they want. They want people to remember them and people to say their names. The two men in the documentary, I won't say their name. I'm not going to give them that power. The two men in the documentary tell a story about their time in Neverland. And I believe one of them from like the age of 7. The other one I think was about 10 or so, a little older. And they talk about the abuse that they experienced with Michael pretty much the last 30 years. And I say that because they talk about the sexual abuse that happened when they were young and kind of like the emotional manipulation that they experienced. But yeah, it's about the documentary spans about a 30-year time frame. And it's a 4-hour documentary in 2 halves in 2 hours each. It is a lot to kind of take in, honestly. And that's like one of the main things I've been hearing. A lot of people are saying like it's so graphic, it's so heavy. And it is. I didn't necessarily feel so heavy because I'm just thinking to myself like they lying. But I could tell that that's the direction that it was going in. It is meant to make you feel. So yeah, they talk about over this 4-hour documentary, they are telling their tale of what happened to them. And I saw like zero emotion. I thought it was zero emotion. It was very monotone. The voices are very calm pretty much the whole time. Like they're really not even telling a story about themselves. And it's very interesting to me that this is how they chose to tell this story. And yeah, the only time I felt like a range of emotions was when like either their moms were talking or one of them, his sister was in the documentary. And them, they feel like more like real people. You can definitely tell that they had more mixed emotions about Michael, from joy to excitement to love to happiness to anger to despise, and you just you can sense that when they're talking about it. And the two men, like they just really were very just kind of like whatever about it. And even when they're going into detail, the very graphic sexual detail of what was happening to them, they were still using the same tone of emotion, same straight face. That to me is very important. I think reading body language and facial expressions is very important when you think someone's lying or not. And either you get a lack of, or you get too much of. And with them, I just wasn't. They weren't selling me, pretty much. So the narrative that they were selling was that they pretty much kind of what I said at the beginning, how they were unaware of really what was happening to them. They pretty much try to say how Michael conditioned them and groomed them to really just rely on him and depend on him and shut them out from the rest of the world, which is something that abusers do. And they do it really well, and that's so that you feel like it's just you two and that you are the only ones that matter, and if you were to get caught, then both of you are going to get in trouble. And that's pretty much kind of what they were saying was happening, that they were really unaware that they were being abused at the time, which, in normal circumstances I would totally be able to believe, because children don't understand that. Children don't understand what it means to be manipulated and taken advantage of in that sense. Watching the Oprah interview right after that, I think that further frustrated me, because it was almost like they would kind of have this answer for something, and then Oprah would sit and explain how in child abuse situations how it relates, and they're just like, yeah, that's totally what happened, like, yeah, that was me, like, and it's just like it's almost like their answers were very textbook, like they studied what it meant to be a victim of child abuse or a survivor of child abuse, and they were like, yep, we're going to do that, we're going to say that, we're going to say that, check, that's me, I'm filling in all these boxes. That's how it felt to me. It felt like they knew exactly what to say. Overall, I just didn't get a good vibe from it. Like I said, why I don't believe them is really based off of just kind of the inconsistency, I think, or the total consistency, I can even say. Like, it's almost like they only had the same couple of answers for every question, no matter what the situation was. Especially even when Oprah was talking to them, the answer, if she asked a question about, especially to one of the guys whose career pretty much was created because of Michael Jackson, and definitely thrived because of his connection to Michael Jackson, who had many times said and defended Michael against these allegations. Once when he was like 11, which, I mean, if something did happen, I can understand an 11-year-old lying. And then again during the 2005 trial, when he was like 22, he lied again, or he said that he lied. Their answers, though, would be like when she asked, well, why are you coming out now and saying this when before, you didn't, that's not how you felt. And, well, I loved Michael. The answer, the whole documentary, they were saying how much love they had for Michael, because they were trying to instill in people that Michael groomed them to love him enough to lie and protect him. And so they would say something like, I loved Michael, or I didn't know I was being abused, or they kept kind of saying because they had sons of their own, now they were able to see that they were actually being abused. And like I said, it's easy enough to believe, because these are actually things that happen to victims. This is something that actually happens to people who have been affected by child abuse. It's not until later in life that you even realize what's happening to yourself, and most of the time, especially with child molestation and child abuse, it's someone that it's legit someone that you do care about, someone that you love. And so it's really easy to want to protect those people. And having children of your own and having a family definitely brings those type of emotions out of people and makes people want to get some sort of resolution in their own lives, because they would never want this to happen to their own children. But that's what I mean by, like, they were hitting every single box. Every box you can hit and tick, they were hitting it, like, but not in the sense where they had evidence with it, or that it was enough to, like I said, to prove that what they said before wasn't true. Because if you watch the videos of homeboy defending Michael, he seems like it seems honest, it seems genuine. It doesn't seem like someone who's necessarily trying to lie or be generic. But again, once you've convinced yourself of something so much, that's how it comes across. And that's why it's so hard for me to kind of talk about this documentary, because it's definitely not something that you want to believe, that that this man could do something like this to like children like this. But it's like, because you want to be able to make sure that people in situations like this feel safe to speak up and speak out. But it's just them. I don't feel it. And I feel like coming out, especially after the man has been dead for 10 years, definitely doesn't really help it. And I definitely think coming out in this way isn't the answer. Having a 4-hour long documentary about it just kind of seems like it's screaming, look at me, look at us, type of thing, as opposed to finding some more personal way to come to resolutions with whatever happened to them. And I've been seeing a lot of reactions online and stuff, and some people feel like they've come out changed watching the documentary, because it is so, everyone keeps saying it's so well made. It's so well made. They got these beautiful shots and the drone shots, and it's just, you feel like you're a part of this story. And it's like, yeah, because it's probably more about making a great looking documentary as opposed to actually telling the truth about what happened here. It's like I said, it's all kind of messy for me. I just, for me personally, the documentary wasn't enough to prove to me that anything about anything. The man he had his day in court. He was found innocent. Not to say that guilty people haven't been found innocent before and vice versa, but he was found innocent. And as long as they have been looking into this and investigating this, they have never been able to have a solid story to, unquestionably say that this man did these horrible crimes. And so that's pretty much my whole take on it. It's crazy. It is pretty crazy. I think that they are getting the attention that they wanted, but maybe not necessarily the reaction that they wanted. I think they thought it was gonna single-handedly kind of get everyone onto their side, and I don't feel like that's the case for him. And I know that Michael's family is fighting hard to really, clear his name and keep his reputation intact. What's left of it from after all these years of people pretty much trying to deteriorate it as is. So for me, I'm still gonna support Michael, because I do not feel like this is something that he did, and and I can't say anything more than that. So yeah, that's all I'm going to say about that. If you haven't already, make sure you subscribe, and yeah, I'm going to be doing some more videos of different stuff. Let me know in the comments down below kind of what you're feeling, if you're done with Michael, if you're canceling Michael, or if you really think this documentary just kind of, there's just something that seems off about it. So let me know down below. As always, keep shining, soul sisters.